Heikki. So nice of you to join HackingPostgres. Really looking forward to chat with you a little bit. You're the co-founder of Neon. You founded in 2021. You're a Postgres hacker and also contributor to pgvector. And I think we're going to talk about all of those topics in lightning speed, maybe if we only do like half an hour. But maybe we can talk a little bit, and we can start a little bit with why you even started Neon in the first place, and if there were maybe some pain points that made you start Neon that are solved right now.
Great, glad to be here.
All right, so like talk to us about Neon. What's that all about? Why did you start it?
So we started in 2021. I was approached by our CEO Nikita, who was looking for people. Like it was his original idea to start a company to do open source, something like Aurora Serverless, all of that. And he was looking for people with Postgres experience, experienced Postgres hackers to join the project. So he reached out through a mutual friend and found me and Stas Kelovich. So we started planning, so what exactly would this look like and so forth. That was exciting times. I'd never founded a company before, never worked at a startup that small before. So it was really exciting to see how all the company building happens in the very early stages.
Yeah, certainly very exciting, and also if that's not a sort of like a company size that you're used to, that is quite something different. How did you even find you? Like, is there like a platform where you're just like, oh, I'd be up for starting something if someone has a nice idea? Like, how does it even work?
No, the way it usually works is that you just reach out to people you know and ask if they know someone. And in this case, there was someone he knew that knew about me. But I mean, all of the work we do in the Postgres community, it's out in the public, so it's not like a secret who's working on what. So you can just look people up and send them emails and get started on something like that very easily. Yeah,
that's fair enough. I think everyone is kind of public once you work on a public project. So since 2021, what happened? How big are you now? Like how are things in Neon land?
Yeah, well, we started from scratch. It was at the beginning it was fun times when we still had no users, no customers. Then you can move fast and get stuff done. At this point, we have around 100 people or 100 employees, and it's doing good. I think we have around 600,000 databases under management at the moment. It's a lot of small databases. It's a very easy platform to get started with. So you go to neon.tech and click a button and you have a database in, 5 minutes. So a lot of those databases are people just kicking the tires, but that's fine. Like that's what we're good at. We're very good at, making it very easy to get started, and it doesn't cost us much to run the free tier. So we're totally happy with all of that. But we're at this point, we're starting to grow and see like more production usage and more serious users. And nowadays, when we have even a small outage, we actually hear about that a lot. Like we get a lot of feedback very quickly. So there's people using it in a much more serious way nowadays than a year or two ago.
Yeah, that might sound funny to people, but you hearing about something not going well very quickly is actually like a really good thing.
Right. When you're not in the middle of the crisis, afterwards, it means that there's someone who seriously cares about your service and is relying on it.
Yeah, 100%. It is very wonderful to hear. I mean, you started in 2021, so that was like pandemic time, right?
Yes.
I mean, I guess like also being a Postgres hacker and generally like working in open source, people are a little bit more used to, like working remotely, but that doesn't go for all of the types of roles that you need to run a company, right? To start a company, and keep it running. So, what was that like?
Yeah, I think it was about 6 months until the founding team met each other in person. So that was, we have been fully remote from the start. There was really no other option at the time. Like it was the lockdowns were going strong. So that was kind of an easy decision. Like we were going to be a remote first or remote only company. Yeah. It was no choice. But of course, as working on Postgres, that I was very used to that model anyway. So that was very natural to me. And kind of when you are remote only, from day one, that also attracts the people who like that and it attracts the people who are used to that. So we are like it came as a surprise to no one who joins the company. Everyone knows what's the name of the game. It also helps when everyone is remote and no one is working in an office, because then everyone is kind of on the same level playing field. Like there's no water cooler talks happening anywhere else because everyone is working remotely. So in a sense, it's easier when everyone is doing that.
Yeah, the only water cooler talk is in the water cooler Slack channel or
exactly,
whatever tool you're using. Have you since brought people together so that they could meet?
Yeah, we have offsite meetings. We try to do that once a year now, where we kind of bring the whole company back together. We were just in Lisbon a couple of weeks ago with the whole company, and that's a great way to meet and bond. And it's always funny to see the people you have been speaking with but never met, and a lot of new joiners there as well. So yeah, it helps when you get together and meet, but those are always big events. It takes a lot of effort to bring everyone together, but it's worth it.
Yeah. At Tembo, we're also fully remote. And I mean, I've only started, a couple of months back, but, already and that was fully by chance. I was in New York for another event, and I got to meet, three of my colleagues. And that was really, really kind of nice, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, I really felt, a little bit like a privilege that I could meet some people. I've been working remote for a really long time. And so it was nice to.
For sure. Especially when you're joining, it makes a big difference to meet
100%. Yeah. 100%. That was a really good feeling. All right. So, PGConf EU is coming up in Athens. I'm very excited, very looking forward to. I've never been to Greece. What a wonderful reason to go to another country and visit another country. And you're going to talk about time travel with Neon. What does that mean? I thought we were just on AI, but apparently we're beyond AI now, or we're working on time travel stuff.
The future is here.
Tell me. Yeah, exactly. What a time to be alive. Tell me about that one, please.
So in Neon, the way the storage works, in traditional Postgres, you have the write-ahead log, and then you take, daily backups or whatnot. In Neon, the storage, we do that slightly differently. So we don't we don't take full backups of your system, in a traditional sense, and we don't keep the write-ahead log in a sequential format in the traditional sense. But what we do instead, we kind of, it's all based on the write-ahead log still, but we process it when it comes into the storage system, and we kind of reshuffle the WAL so that we can later very quickly find all the WAL records, transaction log records for an individual page. And this is kind of an important point, because it means that our storage system can pretty quickly, it can quickly reconstruct any page of the system, at any point in time in the history. Depending on how far you want to keep the history. It's kind of the same data you're storing anyway in a traditional system with backups and the write-ahead log, but we reshuffle it so that it's faster to access. And what that means is that with the storage system, you can start a new endpoint, as we call it, you can launch a new Postgres, and just give it an LSN, just like a point in time. And it will, when it connects to the storage system, it will ask for all of the pages at that point in time. And then whenever you're running queries, it will do I/O as usual, but it goes to the storage system, and the storage system will reconstruct the page at that point in time. But it does that, in a traditional point in time recovery situation, you have to kind of start from a backup and you replay the logs all the way, from the last backup. And that can take hours if it's a large database. But in Neon, you're doing that page at the time, on demand when you're running your queries. So that's how you get time travel. If you have a large database, you might still have kind of cold cache effects and stuff like that. But if you're, depending on the kind of queries you're doing, it can work really well. And that's really nice. In your traditional system, if you have to do point-in-time recovery, it generally means something has already gone wrong. It's 3 a.m. in the morning and someone accidentally dropped a table or something. And it can be a very painful wait while and just finding the right point to restore it can be painful. But with Neon, because you can do this time travel query, you can very quickly experiment with that. What does the data look like at this point in time? And, do I need to go 5 minutes backwards or forwards? That makes the whole recovery experience a lot nicer.
Yeah, I wanted to ask if there is any experience story of, saving someone's, proverbial ass, but you mentioned the 3 a.m. Dropping a table example. That seems like saving someone's night at least, or rest.
There's a few cases I know of, because I only get paged when something's not going as expected. So I've had a few cases where there was something in the UI that was confusing and the user reached out. So that's why I know about them. But we have had people who had accidentally dropped a table and had to restore it, and they were really thankful for that feature. It's the kind of feature you don't think about and you don't think you need it, but
until you do need it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like with backups in general.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so that's the talk here. That's what you're going to talk about at PGConf.
Yeah.
Are there any other events or projects that are coming up that you're excited about, that you're looking forward to?
Well, in Postgres, I'm very excited about all the asynchronous I/O work. That's Andreas Freund and others at Microsoft working on that one. I plan to spend some time reviewing that, because I think that's really exciting. It matters a lot for Neon too, because our storage system, it's like a NAS. It's like an external, it's not a local disk you're accessing. So that always means there's larger latency than with local disks. Same applies to any remote storage system you might be using. But asynchronous I/O is very important in that case when the latency is higher than with local disks. It can make a big difference to query performance if you can do prefetching efficiently and so forth. So I'm both personally very interested in that project. I think it's going to be great for everyone using Postgres, but it's also very important for Neon performance in the future. There's other stuff, what I've been working on is the whole multi-threading work, which raises a lot of opinions and emotions. I plan to keep working on that. It's kind of slow, but there's stuff happening in the background. We've changed some of the system calls to use the thread safe versions and stuff like that. That is kind of prerequisites for doing this. Even there isn't much happening with threads itself yet, but it's coming.
Yeah, I think whenever also you're working on something in Postgres, I wonder what the percentage is, right? Like you have these 80 versus 20%, like how much percentage is actually developing something and how much percentage do you spend on advocating for the thing that you're trying to do? What do you think the ratio is? For threading, maybe.
Yeah, it really depends on the feature. Some features are easy to sell. Like if you can get a performance gain on something, that's usually easy because it's easy to measure, and there's really often little controversy on. Everyone likes more if things go faster. It's kind of an easy sell. But if you're developing a new feature, or especially if you want to change how an existing feature works, that's always that's a tough sell, because it affects a lot of people and people will have opinions on that. I try to choose the easier project from that sense, so there isn't so much, except maybe for the multi-threading one, but I generally try to pick the easy battles.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough. You also have a company to run, so I bet there is only so much time that you can spend on open source as well.
Aside from the advocacy and trying to convince people, there's also often, if I want to do X, but actually it would be nice if these other components were refactored first. So what tends to happen to me often is like I go on these yak shaving exercises where I'm going to do X, but actually it would be nice if I refactored this 5 other things first, and then these projects can take a long time, but in the long run, like I think that's what keeps the project alive, when you keep the code base healthy. So
yeah,
and then you can make changes that make it easier to make other changes in the future.
Okay, so next time we see you do like a little project, we're just we can think about what bigger project is he working up to to fixing.
Yeah, I'm usually upfront about it. Like, what are the intentions?
Okay. So there is no smoke and mirrors. Like, okay, it's quite clear what the direction you're going to. That's pretty good. Any other projects that you're looking forward to, or have you already been playing with the release candidate? I can imagine that you have.
Oh, you mean release candidate? You mean version 17 is out already? You mean that one or the next one? Oh, sure.
You're like.
I know. Okay. I'm already in version.
Exactly. We're going.
17 is out already. That's the history now.
we're going full time travel. You're talking 18. Yeah, sure. Yeah, what are you excited about? Postgres 18. Let's go.
There isn't much yet there. But I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I hope to see in 18, which I actually.
What do you hope to see in Postgres 18?
One thing I'd like to see in 18 is something that uses the new protocol version stuff. Like there's a few patches flying around that would change the protocol, or like add extensions to the protocol, and none of they're kind of small, not that exciting maybe, but I would like to see one of them at least land, so that we would have something that uses the extension, the mechanism, and I think that will open the door for a lot of other cool stuff. I think there's a lot more stuff we could do with the protocol, but everyone is kind of afraid of changing it because of their whole ramifications to the ecosystem and, which drivers are going to get the support and so forth. But if we would get one of these in, that would, then we would know, then we would be a lot less afraid of doing those changes in the future.
Right. Okay. So it's sort of like ripping up the bandage once.
Yeah,
and then...
exactly.
and then move from there. Cool. Super interesting. So at PostGres, you talked this year, so that's 2024. If people are listening to this in the future,
we're
talking about time travel all the time, so like we're just bringing it back. You talked about pgvector. So what is? Could you talk a little bit about what your contribution to that project is? What your interest stems from? Why is this the thing that you're looking at?
Yeah, so I mostly worked on small performance tweaks. Like I started to work on the project from the point of view, like I know Postgres and I know, the general tips and tricks and how to work with Postgres code, but I didn't know anything about vectors or AI or any of that. So that was all new to me. So I started to look at the code, doing some small micro optimizations here and there, the usual stuff that you would want to do with Postgres code base. But then I started to also learn about the algorithms, HNSW in particular. I actually dug into and understood how it works. I've never used it much. Like I haven't built any AI applications on top of that. Like I've seen a lot of demos and so forth, but I haven't actually built anything myself. So I'm looking purely from the point of view of just pure vector search and the performance of the algorithms and so forth. But once you get into that, it's interesting. Like coming from a regular database background, the vector data types are quite different. And you have to kind of let go of some of the assumptions you had in the past. Like the vector search itself is kind of, you don't get accurate results. That's the first thing you have to just accept, because none of these algorithms work well or are performant if you need accurate results. So you kind of have to let go of the idea that SQL query is deterministic and gives you the same results, because with vector search, it's approximate. So you get close to that, but that's the first thing you kind of have to let go, just because, if you read the research, that's what they say. Like there is no good algorithms that are fast if you need accurate results.
Yeah.
The other one thing is that it's like these are very large data types that you're dealing with. So it's not like, B3 index on an integer 4 where it's tiny and it's very much slower to work with to begin with, like just because everything's larger. But like also you need to do stuff like toasting becomes important, and you need to do vector operations at the CPU level to make it faster. So it's slightly different problems, but at the same time, it's just another data type. Like Postgres can have a lot of data types, and there's a lot of extensions to do, geographical data and all of that. So in a way, it's nothing new. Like it's exactly what Postgres is good at, having extensions with data types like that. And you can build your indexing and, as pgvector has done. But at the same time, it's a whole different domain, and it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, and you see a couple of different extensions that sort of like deal with vector data or embeddings. What are some other projects that maybe you're looking at besides pgvector?
Oh, you mean for vector search in particular? Or?
Yeah.
Well, there's a few I know of.
Or any AI use cases, basically. Like what is some other helpful projects to look into?
There's a few I know. I know there's the vector scale from pgvector scale from timescaledb, which is kind of the same algorithms as pgvector, but re-implemented in Rust. And they have some tricks there. So I haven't played much with it. I don't know how easy it would be to pick those into pgvector itself, or where is that going? But I think, but there's been a few other projects as well that kind of re-implement the same kind of or similar algorithms. I don't know. Like we'll see which one wins or which one takes over. But at the moment, it seems that pgvector is doing fine. Like people are generally happy with that and the performance of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Aside from that, like I know there's also attempts at, building more extensions on top of that to build your, integrate a large language model into that, and kind of how do you get the vectors in the first place and what do you do with those vectors once you get them out of the search? But I haven't really been involved in any of that because I'm focused on the algorithms backing all of that.
Yeah, fair enough. Do you have any AI use cases with customers at Neon that you're interested in seeing how pgvector could be of help there?
I have no direct contact. Like I know there's people using it, but I don't have the numbers, how many like that. This pgvector was definitely one of the extensions that people have been asking for and are. Whenever we put out a new release of that, people are excited. So there's a lot of people playing with it. I don't know how many of those applications have made it to production yet. Like this is all very new.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm always curious because, I think AI is still maybe in some cases very much a sort of like a play thing and not a production thing yet. So I'm always interested to hear if anyone else found some interesting use cases.
There's one that actually, like, it's not about vector search though, but it's related to AI, which we found out recently that Neon actually happens to be very good at, or very suitable for writing, like to use as the database behind applications that you build with AI. Because if you're using something like V0 or something that, you use to build an application, you'd often also want to have a database to go with it. And with Neon, you can have branches and you can like do the time travel and stuff. And these AI builders, they like to do things in steps. So you can, like, you build your application in many steps, and at every stage, you can also modify the database and the schema and so forth. So the branching capabilities can actually be very helpful in that kind of agent workflows, where you have an agent building your application and you evolve your database to go with it. And you can have these checkpoints at different points and create branches where you try different things. And then you decide you didn't like them, you go back. So all of that happens to actually fit Neon quite nicely.
Super. That's super interesting. All right. So besides maybe AI, what would you wish that it gets talked about more in the Postgres world, or maybe it gets talked about less in the Postgres world? Maybe there's something you're just like, we're 2020 in the year 2024. Why are we still talking about X, Y, Z?
Yeah. Well, vacuum still gets talked a lot, and I wish we didn't have to talk about it. And there's other stuff like that, like I just wish. But
do you wish we wouldn't talk about it anymore because you think it's a solved problem,
no.
or you just wish it?
I wish it was a solved problem, so
yeah.
we wouldn't have to talk about it. Okay. I mean, there's stuff like that. Like there's old problems that are still not fully solved. I don't know what else would there be.
I don't know. Maybe there's things like, I wish that, like you have a couple of talks and you keep submitting them and people don't accept them. And you're just like, but these are really important problems. We should be talking about that, yo. Don't know if that's the case.
No, I don't think I've seen that.
Friends in the community have been submitting a lot of security-minded talks, and they don't get accepted, and they're just like, why? We're not talking about security enough.
That's a good one, actually. I do have some opinions on that one. Like,
excellent. We love opinions. Bring them. Yeah.
So Postgres is, so one thing that kind of working on Postgres and having to maintain this stuff. One thing is that Postgres has a very advanced security model. Like there's all, you can define very fine-grained roles and role-level security and whatnot. But I personally wouldn't really trust much of that, to be honest. For, if I was running a production application, I would still want to have the application be in control of all the queries that get sent to the server. And so kind of all of this fine-grained security stuff that we have in Postgres in the database itself, it's kind of smoke and mirrors. So it's like an extra layer, but I wouldn't really trust it because Postgres is a big code base. It's old C code base. There's always, if you look back at the minor versions we do, there's always CVEs, the classic buffer overflows and so forth. And Postgres itself is very reliable, but if you really poke through and try to make it crash, you will find cases where you can make it crash. And some of those are security vulnerabilities. And then there's stuff like side channel attacks. Like if you set up your role-level security really well, there's still going to be timing things that, timing attacks that are very, very hard to completely root out. So we're kind of in this cycle where we try to fix all of these issues as they pop up. Like, sure, we do security fixes and put out CVEs, but I do sometimes wonder, like, do people actually care about that? Like, I wouldn't trust these mechanisms for my application security. So, how important is it that we even try to patch all of these things and treat them as security vulnerabilities? Because the way people usually install Postgres or any database, like they don't expose it to the public internet and let people run arbitrary queries. Right. That's rare. Maybe analytics world that's more common, but especially with an OLTP system, you wouldn't normally do that. You have GraphQL or you have some other backend that submits those queries, and you have the security at that level. So why do we keep patching the Postgres itself to keep up with that? Yeah.
Do you think because it's such a mature project that people have sort of a false sense of security? That it should be all right?
I don't think people do. Like, I think people realize that. And you don't give access to your database anyway. That's the thing. Like, that you do set up your roles and so forth. So you don't give that access. So I don't think people are relying much on that. I guess that's my opinion. Like, people are not really relying on those features anyway. So, is it really worth trying to keep up the illusion that we have the fine-grained access controls when, people are not using them, trusting them anyway?
Huh. Okay. So maybe we should talk about security a little bit more, or at least figure out. Yeah,
that might be why the security-related talks are not getting accepted too, because it's not something that people are really relying on anyway, like the security features.
Interesting. Right. Anything else that we're missing from Postgres conferences today?
No, I think you'll need to provoke me on something again.
Okay. I don't think I have any more, talk ideas that I want to push through and get your opinion on. But thank you for that. Before we wrap up, is there, any final words? What's shaken in Heikki land?
No, not really. I'm just busy with the company and with all the stuff at Neon, and also trying to find the time to work on Postgres and all the interesting stuff happening there.
Yeah, that seems like a full enough, like a full-time job and then something on top of that. In that case, thank you so much for making some time to talk to me today, and see you soon.
Thank you very much.